Thank you. We, the citizens of America, are now joined in a great national effort to rebuild our country and restore its promise for all of our people. Together, we will determine the course of America and the world for many, many years to come. We will face challenges. We will confront hardships, but we will get the job done. Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. And we are grateful to President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama for their gracious aid throughout this transition. They have been magnificent. Thank you. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. Politicians prospered, but the jobs left and the factories closed. The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country. Their victories have not been your victories. Their triumphs have not been your triumphs. And while they celebrated in our nation's capital, there was little to celebrate for struggling families all across our land. That all changes starting right here and right now, because this moment is your moment. It belongs to you. It belongs to everyone gathered here today and everyone watching all across America. This is your day. This is your celebration. And this, the United States of America, is your country. What truly matters is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. January 20th, 2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. Everyone is listening to you now. You came by the tens of millions to become part of a historic movement, the likes of which the world has never seen before. At the center of this movement is a crucial conviction that a nation exists to serve its citizens. Americans want great schools for their children, safe neighborhoods for their families, and good jobs for themselves. These are just and reasonable
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, folks, here we are. Welcome, and it's Friday, by the way, the Friday before muzzle loading season starts, so I'm pretty excited. I don't know about you guys. I mean, where I am, up my neck of the woods, seems like the deer would be moving right now, right? Yeah, so there's that, Joe. Anyway, the phone number is 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. We're broadcasting live at facebook.com/Conduit News. We're also broadcasting over at our YouTube channel. Go there, please like or subscribe and click the little bell to receive notifications. The terminology is not the same, you know. Terminology is not the same from one platform to the next, and that's a good thing. Oh, and by the way, it's Johnny Cash Friday. So we got that going for us. Yes, Johnny Cash Friday. So this is a day where we try to listen to as much Johnny Cash music as we can, while at the same time peppering in the news and events of the day and the week. And boy, what a bunch of news that came down the pike yesterday. For those of you who have been worried about the legislative branch of the Arkansas government getting too big for its britches and moving on in to try to, set the rules of evidence for the court, try to be, violate the separation of powers. Well, good news. The Arkansas Supreme Court agreed with you, and they thought it was excessive too, and they voted yesterday to say that Issue 1 was unconstitutional, meaning they put way too many issues. They packed too many issues inside Issue 1. We're going to talk about that. We're going to dissect it. It was a huge, huge victory, in my opinion, for the Constitution. Of course, immediately after that, you had the establishment, the people who were all in on this. They were very upset. Well, they should have just been upset with themselves because they supported a bill that was essentially the legislature getting way too greedy. If you want tort reform, great. This was not tort reform. This was basically saying that, hey, we're socialists. I mean, I'm being perfectly honest with you. This was Issue 1 was a form of socialism because it told attorneys how much they could make. It told attorneys, it said basically, hey, we think there's a point, just like Obama said. Yeah, well, I do think there's a point where you've made too much money, where you've made enough money. That's one component of Issue 1. Not that, then you got what happened with the damages, capping the damages and everything else. And that's why it got tossed out, because there were too many different issues log-rolled into one issue. And I was explaining this to a family member the other day. They're like, Paul, what do you mean log-rolling? I was like, well, to make it as extreme as possible. Or, to illustrate my point, right? Like, what if you had a bill that, I don't know. It's like a bill that outlawed abortion. We're all going to go vote on completely outlawing abortion. And there's a lot of people that say, okay, I agree with that. But also in that bill, it was going to, do something completely unrelated to, what the pro-life issue is or whatever. I don't know. Let's make something up. It's also going to, I don't know, allow, mandate that, squatters have rights and can come in your house anytime they want and stay there for a couple of days. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'd be two completely different issues. And that's basically what log rolling is. There might be some people that agree with one of those but disagree with the other, but you can't vote yes and no on them separately. You see what I'm saying? So that's why Issue 1 got kicked off the ballot in a nutshell, and we'll go over that opinion a little later in the program as well. We also have, coming up at 7 o'clock, I want to introduce you to the Johnson County Republican Party chair. Katie Howard is her name. There was a recent write-up in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette about Johnson County specifically. Johnson County is in our listening audience, and they are now, I guess they got 14 party hopefuls, which is the most in recent years. Johnson County is kind of basically trying to break out of this Democrat philosophy. And so we're going to talk to her coming up at 7:05. Then at the bottom of the next hour, 7:33, we'll be talking with state representative candidate Jason Dobson, who's challenging Democrat Chris Ritchie. And I believe that this is District 12. Hang on, I got it right here in front of me, actually. Let me look. That is in District, let's see, 12. Yeah, Jason Dobson, 12. So we'll be talking to him again about, just the race and how things go and everything else. Okay, but let's start at the top here. We have, by the way, other huge news, constitutional carry has now basically been, set as a precedent because it's been referenced now by a judge in a case that really was about, from what I can tell, Fourth Amendment protections. But guess what? It's referenced specifically in a case about what the law is, what the practical reality is, the burden of proof. It's amazing. Everybody who believes in the Second Amendment, everybody who believes in constitutional carry, I want to give a great shout-out to the Patriots of X746. You guys have worked tirelessly trying to educate people for 5 years now about what the law actually says. And finally, even though we've had flawed attorney general's opinions, 2 of them, even though we've had Governor Asa Hutchinson come out and claim that we're a constitutional carry state just because he's got, Jan Morgan as an opponent, a primary opponent, but then his definition of constitutional carry wasn't actual constitutional carry. He said, yeah, we've got constitutional carry, and then he defined it in a way that still supported the permission slip process, where, you get a background check and you pay this money and you get your fingerprints and then the government sends you a permission slip to exercise your right. Well, Patriots of Act 746 have been saying that's ridiculous forever. And finally, I mean, not to mention they're 6-0 when somebody does trying to bring gun charges because prosecutors know they don't have a conviction. Judges know that what the law says. And finally, we have a judge referencing Act 746, referencing what the law actually says. And by the way, all these stories are up right now at conduitnews.com with the opinions. If you want to start reading them for yourself, it's at conduitnews.com. The Issue 1 opinion from the Supreme Court of the state of Arkansas. Also, we have this other, I think it's an appellate court. That opinion is up right now at conduitnews.com. All right. I will talk about more of that in depth here in just a moment. First, I want to start with some national news. The one story that I picked for this particular segment as we open up this Friday. By the way, thanks for starting your weekend with us here at the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. This would be Joel Pollack. Joel Pollack over at Breitbart has an interesting take on the media's obsession with the Saudi Arabian story and Donald Trump. Now, Joe, can you kill those pods for me for a second? Because it's just ringing in my ear, driving me nuts. I told you on Monday, I don't know if you've listened to the full, at this point, 9 hours of radio, almost, then you'll know on Monday I told you that the media narrative was about to shift and they were going to go all in on the Saudi Arabian story. And the reason I knew this is because there does seem to be some people that want to destabilize the Middle East. And there did seem to be some people that really didn't like President Trump's relationship with the Crown Prince, bin Salman. I don't like that for some reason, okay? And I personally think the reason is because when bin Salman got to power, he detained a whole lot of Saudi Arabian officials and basically said, hey, listen, and it was a shakedown, but guess what? That's what a monarchy is. But I think some of these other Saudi Arabian officials that bin Salman went after might have been the kind of, I don't know, might have been funding the Democrat Party a little bit. That just, there are reports that suggest that. So based on that, I think there's a lot of people that don't like that at all. But I think it's also the fact that you have a Muslim Brotherhood angle here, and the fact that Saudi Arabia is moving towards as much as they can. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I mean, Saudi Arabia is no paradise, okay? Saudi Arabia is no utopia of like democracy or democratic principles or anything like that. So let's just be clear. But what we will say is they recognized Israel's right to exist. Okay, so we're there. We've gotten a pretty big admission out of Saudi Arabia. Hey, yeah, Israel's got a right to exist. Now that would enrage the Muslim Brotherhood. That would enrage the radicals. Okay. And so this whole Saudi Arabian story, it's, to me, I feel like it's an effort to destabilize the Middle East because they're mad about Iran. Right now, Saudi Arabia doesn't like Iran. They would love, and they're all mad at Donald Trump and the United States for canceling the Iran deal, as they should have, right? The international community's mad about this. So when you hear these media outlets and all of this phony outrage when they didn't care at all about what happened in Benghazi, right? They didn't care at all about it's just weird. It's all of a sudden, right? It's all of a sudden there was this Saudi Arabian story. Like nobody's ever been, if what is said is true, where like nobody in the Middle East has ever chopped somebody up into pieces. This happens all the time. And so I don't understand what the big deal was. So I told you on Monday, my senses were, red flags going up. They're about to shift this. And what we've heard it all week. And somehow Donald Trump is responsible for this. Somehow this is on Donald Trump, right? All this pressure's coming at Donald Trump. Why? Why? Because there was, because people in the Middle East are fighting, and that's Donald Trump's fault? It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so Joel Pollak kind of encapsulates what my thoughts have been on this the whole time. And he says this yesterday. Joel Pollak writes this: many Americans have already begun voting in the 2018 midterm elections. The media and the Democrat Party hope anti-Trump sentiment will lead to a blue wave. But with just days to go before the polls close, the biggest story in the media right now is not Russian collusion, the media's obsession for the past 2 years, nor is it how Trump might start a nuclear war. Remember that narrative? Nor is it even Trump's tweets. And they've got a lot to go with there because he called Stormy Daniels a horse face. He should have referenced the other end of a horse. Rather, the top story is the alleged murder of a Saudi journalist. The apparent fate of Jamal Khashoggi is shocking and inexcusable, even if he was, as some critics say, a sympathizer with radical Islam. His disappearance sheds light on the abusive nature of the Saudi regime. But it has nothing to do with the Trump administration. Moreover, the more sensational claims about the murder have been made by the Turkish government, which is virtually an Islamist theocracy that suppresses free speech and persecutes opposition, just like the Saudis would do. What? I mean, this is ridiculous. Okay, so let's keep going here. Let's see here. Turkey, okay, which is virtually an Islamic theocracy. Let's see. The Committee to Protect Journalists named Turkey the top jailer of journalists in both 2016 and 2017. The legions of Obama administration's alumni who haunt Twitter and cable news shows are trying to lay Khashoggi's apparent murder at Trump's feet, saying that his criticism of fake news has emboldened foreign tyrants to attack journalists in their own countries. So this guy is a Saudi Arabian citizen. He's in the family, basically. He turns on the family and starts writing for the Washington Post, and so now all of a sudden he's some sort of, he's some journalist. Like you would think of, he's not first of all, he's not an American, okay? He did have residency in the U.S. at some point. But still, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is, he was the one that was in Turkey. I'm just pointing that out. He was the one that was in the Middle East. Newsflash, Middle East, not the safest place to be. Turkey, not the safest place to be if you don't agree with the government. Or Saudi Arabia, not the Saudi Arabian embassy in Turkey, not the best place to be if Saudi Arabia doesn't like you. Newsflash. Recall that the Obama administration eagerly leaked the story that President Barack Obama maintained a kill list, personally selecting which foreigners the U.S. military would take out. That's number one. Every American administration has tolerated Saudi tyranny, but none so eagerly as the Obama administration. The 44th president literally bowed to the Saudi king to show that the U.S. was prepared to adopt any sort of, a posture, submissive posture towards the Islamic world. Trump's friendship with the Saudi regime is at least sensibly grounded in a strategy to fight the Iranian regime, which is actively seeking nuclear weapons as a direct threat to the U.S. and our allies. In the wake of the collapse, now listen here, this is Joe Pollack, he's right on the money here. In the wake of the collapse of the Russian conspiracy theory, the media are trying to make Saudi Arabia the new Russia, i.e. a foreign power that supposedly exerts undue influence over President Trump. Perhaps journalists hope, because of some undiscovered financial interest involving the Trump family, which I'm sure they'll try to make something up. The fact that the media are so focused on the murky Saudi story, and it is murky, though Trump is not at all at fault and is arguably handling the situation almost as well as anyone could, it's a sign, he writes, that all other anti-Trump narratives have collapsed. And with them, the Category 5 hurricane that the election was supposed to be has been degraded down to a tropical storm. It might be enough to cause serious damage and flip Congress to the Democrats, but Nancy Pelosi's tsunami appears unlikely. Again, that's Joel Pollack, senior editor over at Breitbart News. Here we go, folks. We're going to break. It's Johnny Cash Friday. We'll be back in just a moment.
Demands of righteous people and a righteous public. But for too many of our citizens, a different reality exists. Mothers and children trapped in poverty in our inner cities, rusted out factories scattered like tombstones across the landscape of our nation, an education system flush with cash, but which leaves our young and beautiful students deprived of all knowledge. And the crime, and the gangs, and the drugs that have stolen too many lives and robbed our country of so much unrealized potential. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. We are one nation, and their pain is our pain. Their dreams are our dreams, and their success will be our success. We share one heart, one home, and one glorious destiny. The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans. For many decades, we've enriched foreign industry at the expense of American industry, subsidized the armies of other countries while allowing for the very sad depletion of our military. We've defended other nations' borders while refusing to defend our own. And spent trillions and trillions of dollars overseas while America's infrastructure has fallen into disrepair and decay. We've made other countries rich while the wealth, strength, and confidence of our country has dissipated over the horizon. One by one, the factories shuttered and left our shores, with not even a thought about the millions and millions of American workers that were left behind. The wealth of our middle class has been ripped from their homes and then redistributed all across the world. But that is the past, and now we are looking only to the future. We assembled here today are issuing a new decree to be heard in every city, in every foreign capital, and in every hall of power. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first. Every decision on trade, on taxes, on immigration, on foreign affairs will be made to benefit American workers and American families. We must protect our borders from the ravages of other countries making our products, stealing our companies, and destroying our jobs. Protection will lead to great prosperity and strength. I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
I hate to interrupt the President Donald Trump's speech that's going on right now, so forgive me. We're going to come back. We're going to bring back the show here. Can take control here for a little while. All right, so this story up at conduitnews.com. And it is this. Issue 1 is now off the ballot. The Arkansas Supreme Court affirmed a lower court ruling on Thursday, holding that votes for Issue 1 will not be counted as it violates the Arkansas Constitution. Arkansas would Issue 1, would have capped damages in lawsuits. The court upheld the lower court ruling that Issue 1 log-rolled multiple separate issues into the same proposed constitutional amendment. The vote was 5-1 to 1. 5 justices joined in the majority opinion. One Justice, Rhonda Wood, concurred with the outcome but disagreed with the full analysis, and Justice Sean Womack dissented. Issue 1 was a proposed constitutional amendment referred by the Arkansas legislature during the 2017 legislative session, SJR 8. It would have capped non-economic damages in lawsuits at $500,000. It would have put in government-mandated price control on how much attorneys and their clients could agree to for compensation. It would have given the Arkansas legislature the rule-making authority over the courts and the rules of evidence procedures. The measure was the most debated ballot measure ahead of the 2018 November election, with millions spent on both sides of the issue. Those pushing for the measure included nursing homes, hospitals, insurance companies, the Trucking Association, and other large corporations. Opposed to the measure were pro-life organizations like the Family Council Action Committee and individuals including Rose Mims, the executive director of Arkansas Right to Life. Also opposed to the measure was the fiscal conservative pro-business organization Conduit for Action. Trial lawyers and the Arkansas Bar Association also opposed the measure. Strange bedfellows, right? Yeah. So what did the establishment do? Well, Senator Trent Gardner tweeted that he's now going to go after the budget of the court system. More on that in a minute.
America will start winning again, winning like never before. We will bring back our jobs. We will bring back our borders. We will bring back our wealth. And we will bring back our dreams. We will build new roads and highways and bridges and airports and tunnels and railways all across our wonderful nation. We will get our people off of welfare and back to work, rebuilding our country with American hands and American labor. We will follow two simple rules: buy American and hire American. We will seek friendship and goodwill with the nations of the world, but we do so with the understanding that it is the right of all nations to put their own interests first. We do not seek to impose our way of life on anyone, but rather to let it shine as an example. We will shine for everyone to follow. We will reinforce old alliances and form new ones and unite the civilized world against radical Islamic terrorism, which we will eradicate completely from the face of the earth. At the bedrock of our politics will be a total allegiance to the United States of America. And through our loyalty to our country, we will rediscover our loyalty to each other. When you open your heart to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice. The Bible tells us how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. We must speak our minds openly, debate our disagreements honestly, but always pursue solidarity. When America is united, America is totally unstoppable. There should be no fear. We are protected, and we will always be protected. We will be protected by the great men and women of our military and law enforcement. And most importantly, we will be protected by God. Finally, we must think big and dream even bigger. In America, we understand that a nation is only living as long as it is striving. We will no longer accept politicians who are all talk and no action, constantly complaining but never doing anything about it. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. Do not allow anyone to tell you that it cannot be done. No challenge can match the heart and fight and spirit of America. We will not fail. Our country will thrive and prosper again. We stand at the birth of a new millennium, ready to unlock the mysteries of space, to free the earth from the miseries of disease, and to harness the energies, industries, and technologies of tomorrow. A new national pride will stir our souls, lift our sights, and heal our divisions. It's time to remember that old wisdom our soldiers will never forget, that whether we are black or brown or white, We all bleed the same red blood of patriots. We all enjoy the same glorious freedom.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Feel free, you can sound off on Facebook, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Wayne on Facebook writes, the secret to winning is don't ever give up. That's exactly right. I think that's what's happened with the Patriots of Act 746 and this ruling we're going to talk about here in just a minute. It has to do with constitutional carry, and you have a state judge essentially in an opinion recognizing what the law is. Before we get to that, though, let's get to issue one, okay? Issue one has been kicked off the ballot. Why? Well, let's go to the opinion. Let's read the opinion. If you go to page, the bottom of page 8, where we have this statement. We now turn to the case at bar. Humphrey argues that issue one is unconstitutional because its contents are not reasonably germane to each other or to a general purpose pursuant to Article 19, Section 22 of the Arkansas Constitution, and our prior decisions interpreting that provision. Secretary Martin argues that issue one does not violate Article 19, Section 22, because all four of its sections are reasonably germane to each other and to the general subject of the judiciary and the courts. Zook argues that the four sections of issue number one are all reasonably germane. Now, Zook being, I'm assuming, Randy Zook, who is the, head of the Chamber of Commerce here in Arkansas. And then we have this statement. We conclude that issue number one does not comply with Article 19, Section 22 of the Arkansas Constitution. You got greedy, establishment. Marble Palace got too greedy here. You could have done tort reform that wasn't written specifically for nursing homes and insurance companies. Surprise, surprise. Right? Surprise, surprise. Insurance companies control all of our politicians especially ever since Medicaid expansion. Surprise, surprise. You guys have been exposed. This is a loss for y'all, right? But guess what? I mean, I don't think it would have worked out too well for you at the ballot box anyway. So, yeah, if you want to do tort reform, maybe do it where you don't try to give the legislature the power to set rules of evidence in a courtroom. Maybe don't put these caps. Maybe try to institute some form of loser pay. Maybe actually try to tackle frivolous lawsuits. How about that? Frivolous lawsuits for small business. This thing didn't do anything to tackle frivolous lawsuits. If anything, it was just going to, their reasoning for, well, yeah, it will. It'll tackle frivolous lawsuits because you won't, attorneys won't want to take your case because there's no profit in it for them. So we're going to basically destroy an industry. That's how we're going to do it. We're going to say, oh, well, nobody gets to bring a case. That doesn't make any sense. We conclude that issue number one does not comply with with Article 19, Section 22 of the Arkansas Constitution. Man, gosh, I got a feeling there's certainly people in Arkansas that right now they woke up this morning and they disagree with that statement. They think the Supreme Court is they just don't like the legislature. They're just trying to protect a corrupt system. Really? That's what you think? First of all, should it be any surprise that there's friction between the judicial branch? Every time you say judicial, Dana Carvey has an old stand-up. Says you really can't say the word judicial without sounding drunk. You're getting carted off in handcuffs. Like, it's not me. It's the judicial system. It's the judicial system. Anyway, is it really a surprise that the legislative branch and the judicial system are competing against one another? Isn't that the way it's supposed to work? what did you guys think was going to happen? That the court was going to be like, yeah, sure, take our power. Yeah, sure, weaken our power. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. We're just a Supreme Court, we're just, yeah, sure, yeah, give the legislature power. Yeah. Like what is that really what you thought they were going to do when you wrote this garbage piece of legislation and had the audacity to ask the citizens of Arkansas to vote for it in the wake of a judge accepting a bribe from nursing home owners and Jake Files getting $80,000, now convicted Senator Jake Files. In the wake of all the Arkansas corruption, and you know what? This is great. Like, I mean, at this point, I think Arkansas is so corrupt, and the players are so corrupt at the top. Not everybody, but the ones who are in positions of power are so corrupt that the people of Arkansas, both Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, should just be like, pump the brakes, man. Give us some anti-lock brakes. Stop the train, because every single thing you guys have done in that corrupt environment, which this vote would have been a product of that, we have to question every single motive because you guys are so good at hiding what your real end game is. I'm glad the Arkansas Supreme Court was like, yeah, we're not going to let the legislative branch violate the separation of powers. Now, I know that's not their reasoning here. They're saying it was a log-rolled issue. But come on. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? First, the sections of issue number 1 are not all reasonably germane, the court went on. This is evident upon comparing the first section of issue number 1 to its other sections. Appellate Martin argues the issue as follows. Quote, the connection between contingent attorneys' fees in Section 1 and damages in Section 2 is obvious. Such attorneys' fees are contingent upon the amount of damages awarded, so those sections are reasonably germane to each other. And those sections both have a substantive interplay with Section 3 and 4 because the judicial procedure will govern the way in which the provisions of Section 1 and 2 will be enforced in the courts. Boy, isn't that scary. But the Arkansas Supreme Court says no. They say, without opining upon the relationship between other sections, it is simply untenable to assert that Section 1 is reasonably germane to Sections 3 or 4. Section 1 limits the rights of private parties to contract for legal services. Section 3 and 4 broaden and diversify the legislature's ability to exert influence over judicial rulemaking authority. Section 1 does not operate to support, develop, clarify, or otherwise aid the functions of Section 3 or 4 in any meaningful way, nor do Section 3 or 4 offer any such benefit to Section 1. The first section of Issue 1 is simply not reasonably germane to the other sections. Therefore, again, it's in violation of the Arkansas Constitution. Yeah, think about that for a second. Is there anybody in Arkansas, seriously, is there anybody in Arkansas that might want the legislator to set rules of evidence in a courtroom, but they disagree with the socialistic big government principle of telling an attorney or anybody in any profession how much money is too much money? Like, is there somebody, maybe there is somebody in Arkansas that's like, yeah, you know what, I think I can't stand what the courts are doing, and I think the legislature that you need to, yeah, absolutely, you need to take control. Okay, but then at the same time, your principles say, but I really don't think the government should hurt the right to contract. I believe in the right to contract, and I think people should be able to contract for whatever the agreement is, and if that's, whatever the percentage is of winnings or legal fees that you get, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so how do you vote on an issue like that? What if you feel equally strongly about both of those things? You're like, yeah, rules of evidence. Oh, yeah, capped contingency fees. I'm just saying, is that person out there? I think, hypothetically speaking, yeah, sure. Well, so how are you going to vote? You got to vote yes or no. Well, if I vote yes, I'm voting for one thing I agree with and one thing I really disagree with. And if I vote no, I'm voting against that one thing I disagree with, but I'm voting against the thing that I'm really passionate about. I think that, anyway, you guys just got greedy. You guys got greedy. Isn't that funny? Because all your ads are like, the greedy trial lawyers, the greedy trial lawyers, they're just looking to make a quick buck. They're just snake oil salesmen. Are there lawyers like that? Yeah, there are. There's also lawyers that have sued in such a way that it forces mega corporations to change their behavior because they're hurting somebody and they didn't care because it was all about dollars and cents to them. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying, look, if somebody does something to me, if somebody does something to you, you at least want to have the recourse. This was going to try to severely diminish that. Okay, anyway, that's pretty much it on issue 1. I mean, you can feel free to look more at the opinion at conduitnews.com. Conduitnews.com, folks. That's where we have this story posted. In other news, big story here out of another court case. This headline, show this headline on the screen. I want to see this. We got to have a victory lap here. Constitutional carry upheld in Arkansas. Now, what does that mean? I mean, what does that headline mean? Well, you see, the Arkansas Court of Appeals issued a ruling Thursday recognizing and upholding the validity of open carry or concealed carry without a firearm. I'm sorry, without a permit license. Without a firearm. That doesn't make any sense. Sorry. So they upheld the validity of open carry, concealed carry of a firearm without a license or permit. This ruling sets a strong court precedent for constitutional carry in Arkansas. Members of the Arkansas group, Patriots of Act 746, celebrated the news across social media yesterday. Their group educates people across Arkansas of their Second Amendment rights. The following statement was posted on the Patriots of Act 746 Facebook page. The Patriots of Act 746 has maintained for more than 5 years that Arkansas is a constitutional carry state. Since the passage of Act 746 in 2013, no permit is required to carry a weapon openly or concealed. Various groups and politicians have failed to fully acknowledge this fact and have argued the law was unclear or confusing. Today, the Arkansas Court of Appeals removed any doubt surrounding the meaning of the law in Arkansas. For the first time, the court has ruled and established precedent that to be guilty of carrying a weapon, the state must prove an individual has unlawful intent to employ a weapon against a person. The court clearly ruled that having a weapon concealed with a permit, without a permit, is not only legal, but as Patriots has stated, not a reason for law enforcement to stop. This case, Taft versus the state of Arkansas, provides conclusive precedent. Arkansans can exercise their right to keep and bear arms as stated in Article 2, Section 5 of the Arkansas Constitution without the necessity of a concealed handgun carry permit. Finally, the state has acknowledged the law. Arkansas is a constitutional carry state. It's pretty fantastic. Let's go to the opinion. If you go down to page 9 of the opinion, what's really interesting is we're basically on page 9 of that other opinion. Yeah, here we go. You can download the PDF here. Let me click on it. This is all up at Conduit News. All right, so Arkansas Court of Appeals, Division 4. This is James Taft versus the state of Arkansas. And here we have another court victory here. So if we go down to page 9, I believe. Now, you feel free to read the whole opinion because this has some pretty interesting Fourth Amendment implications in here as well of, probable cause, unreasonable search and seizure, that sort of thing. But if you go all the way down to page 9, that's where you're going, some of this may be legalese to some of you guys out there. Well, it's legalese to me, too. I'm not an attorney. So, here we go. Let's see. The state notes this court has explained with respect to Rule 3.3, the keyword, suspect, reasonable suspicion. Hang on. What is going on, man? I'm sorry. My laptop is malfunctioning here. So page 9. Here we go. Right there it says, but here by Officer Davis's own testimony, he was not investigating a crime at the time he engaged the blue lights. Taft was not suspected of having committed either a crime or a traffic violation. There was no conduct by him that the officers needed to determine the lawfulness of, because the officers lacked any reasonable suspicion of the commission of a crime. Okay? Acting suspicious does not equate to reasonable suspicion under either the Fourth Amendment or Arkansas law. Scrolling down, the state argued that Officer Davis seized Taft because he had to determine the lawfulness of conduct going in and out of the store and carrying a weapon and acting suspiciously. But the court says this: merely possessing a weapon is not a crime in Arkansas. See Arkansas Code 5-73-120, providing that a person commits the offense of carrying a weapon if he or she possesses a handgun on or about his person with the purpose to attempt to unlawfully employ the handgun as a weapon against a person. The court went on, in general, merely possessing a handgun on your person does not violate 5-73-120 or Act 746 and may be done if it does not violate other laws or regulations. Under the clear language of Section 5-73-120, the possessor of a handgun must have an unlawful intent to employ it as a weapon against a person in order to make that possession a criminal act. Under the rule of lenity, any doubts as to the interpretation of a criminal statute are resolved in favor of the defendant. See Williams versus State. There is nothing in the record before us to indicate that Taft demonstrated any sort of unlawful intent with the weapon prior to the engagement of the blue lights, such as threatening someone at the store or brandishing the weapon that would have given officers reasonable suspicion of a crime sufficient to effectuate the stop with the blue lights. Basically, I think this guy ended up having a drugs or controlled substance or something, and he says, hey, wait a second, I should have been pulled over in the first place. And the court's like, yep. And in the process of this, the court's like, oh, by the way, Arkansas is a constitutional carry state. It's Johnny Cash Friday. Carry on, Arkansas. Carry on. We'll be right back.
Chief Justice Roberts, President Carter, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, fellow Americans, and people of the world, thank you. We, the citizens of America, are now joined in a great national effort to rebuild our country and restore its promise for all of our people. Together, we will determine the course of America and the world for many, many years to come. We will face challenges. We will confront hardships, but we will get the job done. Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. And we are grateful to President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama for their gracious aid throughout this transition. They have been magnificent. Thank you. Today's ceremony, however, has very
Russellville-based firearms manufacturer Omega are making clones of the most notable German firearms in the world. These delayed rotor-lock firearms have been and are currently used by law enforcement and military worldwide. At Omega, they manufacture their guns right here in Arkansas and produce the best reproduction in the marketplace that comes with a complete 5-year warranty. At Omega, they take firearm manufacturing seriously and offer discounts to active and retired law enforcement. Whether you're using Omega firearms to defend the public, defend your family, or for target practice, Omega has your back. For pricing, go to omega-guns.com. That's omega-guns.com. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
special meaning. Because today, we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. Politicians prospered, but the jobs left and the factories closed. The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country. Their victories have not been your victories. Their triumphs have not been your triumphs. And while they celebrated in our nation's capital, there was little to celebrate for struggling families all across our land. That all changes starting right here and right now, because this moment is your moment. It belongs to you. It belongs to everyone gathered here today and everyone watching all across America. This is your day. This is your celebration. And this, the United States of America,
all right,
is...
About wraps up the first hour of this Johnny Cash Friday, but I'm going to leave you with this headline. State Senator threatens Supreme Court's funding after ruling. ... It really didn't agree with. After the Arkansas Supreme Court struck Issue 1 from the ballot Thursday, State Senator Trent Garner, Republican, took to Twitter to threaten the court's state funding. In a tweet he sent out showing his disapproval with the decision, Garner stated, quote, "The court's decision on Issue 1 shows they fear the people having a voice in our legal system. The court shows their power over the will of the citizens. There will be consequences, starting with their budget next week." Budget hearings are currently underway with the Arkansas General Assembly. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens. I think you need to go read the opinion. You guys tried to do too much into one bill, not to mention what you were trying to do was not the kind of tort reform I've ever thought was a good idea. So, anyway. I'm sure they'll try something. Maybe they come back next session and they try to do something that's a little bit more reasonable But we shall see. We're going to have to be on guard. They'll try to get their way one way or the other because of that nursing home money, right? Folks, we'll have one more hour, and it'll be here in 6 minutes. We'll see you in 6 minutes right back here. Don't go anywhere.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk, 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
Your country. What truly matters is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. January 20th, 2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. Everyone is listening to you now. You came by the tens of millions to become part of a historic movement, the likes of which the world has never seen before. At the center of this movement is a crucial conviction that a nation exists to serve its citizens. Americans want great schools for their children, safe neighborhoods for their families, and good jobs for themselves. These are just and reasonable demands of righteous people and a righteous public. But for too many of our citizens, a different reality exists. Mothers and children trapped in poverty in our inner cities, rusted out factories scattered like tombstones across the landscape of our nation, an education system flush with cash, but which leaves our young and beautiful students deprived of all knowledge. And the crime, and the gangs, and the drugs that have stolen too many lives and robbed our country of so much unrealized potential. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. We are one nation, and their pain is our pain. Their dreams are our dreams, and their success will be our success. We share one heart, one home, and one glorious destiny. The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans. For many decades, we've enriched foreign industry at the expense of American industry, subsidized the armies of other countries, while allowing for the very sad depletion of our military. We've defended other nations' borders while refusing to defend our own. And spent trillions and trillions of dollars overseas while America's infrastructure has fallen into disrepair and decay. We've made other countries rich, while the wealth, strength, and confidence of our country has dissipated over the horizon. One by one, the factories shuttered and left our shores, with not even a thought about the millions and millions of American workers that were left behind. The wealth of our middle class has been ripped from their homes and then redistributed all across the world. But that is the past. And now we are looking only to the future. We assembled here today are issuing a new decree to be heard in every city, in every foreign capital, and in every hall of power. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. If you're just joining us, first of all, thank you. And second of all, you got to check out the first hour or go to conduitnews.com and look at the headlines that have just come out. Yesterday was a big news day. Issue 1 thrown off the ballot. Also, now, you know what didn't get thrown off the ballot was the minimum wage law, unfortunately. So you're going to have to vote against that if you want to help. That's the one way we can actually help small business. Then there's another separate, there's just a different court case in an appellate court that was thought to be a, kind of a Fourth Amendment issue, but in a huge win for Second Amendment rights. The judge, in his opinion, acknowledges that it is the law in Arkansas that you can carry a weapon, open or concealed, without a permit, and the cops can't do anything to you unless they can prove that you're going to attempt to unlawfully employ that handgun or weapon. That's now in a court document. That is now in an official ruling from the court. And it's a huge deal. And all that's, again, is up at conduitnews.com. And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. Folks, this headline, back on October the 8th, David Hughes in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Johnson County targeted by the GOP. 14 party hopefuls are the most in years. Candidates are challenging Democrats, most of them incumbents in 14 elected positions that will appear on the November 6th ballot. Quote, I believe that the people of Johnson County are ready to see a change, and that is why Republicans decided to run. Johnson County Republican Committee Chairman Katie Howard is quoted as saying. Katie Howard is on the phone with us right now. She's called in this morning. Katie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I just want to say, first of all, congratulations. It looks like, that the committee, the Republican County Committee in Johnson County, is doing good, is doing very good things.
Well, thank you so much. We're working pretty hard down in Johnson County.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I mean by that is if you get all these people to run, I mean, you've got 14 people to run, and is pretty much, I mean, Johnson County's pretty blue, right? They're pretty much kind of a Democrat holdout county, right?
Oh, yes. I think actually currently all county positions are held by Democrats except for one JP position.
Wow, so only one Republican in the JP there. And
yep.
So what are you feeling? I mean, are things going good? You think you guys are going to pull some of these out?
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty confident going into November 6th. We have a lot of candidates that have been working really, really hard. They've been to all the community events. They've been door knocking. signs are all over Johnson County, and we're getting a lot of good feedback from the community about the ones that are running. So I'm excited to see, what's going to happen on November.
What about the Democrat Party do you think is bad in terms of the issues locally there in Johnson County? I mean, are there any national issues that have made people mad and they're like saying, I'm never going to vote for a Democrat again? Or are there more local issues? Like, what's the battleground like?
Definitely, I think that a lot of people, as far as locally goes, I feel like the issue is really more with the quorum court. We have a lot of people frustrated with the lack of support for our sheriff's department and, of course, the high taxes that we have in Johnson County. But a lot of people also have been kind of changing their mind because of the national level. A lot of people are like, I voted for Trump. I'm never going to vote for a Democrat again. And so I think it's a mixture of both things going on nationally and things going on locally.
Wow. Yeah, and that's the thing about President Donald Trump. I mean, it's the Trump factor. He was able to put together a coalition of really, I mean, if you want to say it, I mean, of people who could smell dishonesty from the traditional politicians, and
absolutely.
And they were like, hang on a second, this guy seems like he is, he just doesn't seem like anybody else that's ever run for president in my lifetime. Let's give him a shot. And that's the Trump factor. And so you may have maybe Democrats saying, hey, I think we're going to have to start voting Republican from now on.
And we're seeing some of that, as people are going door knocking and talking to people. I think a lot of people in Johnson County are just ready for something different. Most of the people that are in our courthouse have been there between 10 and 25 years, so it's the same people that have been there. And I think everyone's ready, for a change to, just change up what's been going on in our county.
It says here, let me just ask you, were there any Republicans running like they are now in Johnson County like 6 years ago?
No, not to my knowledge. I've been the chair in 2.5 years now, and I'm a transplant from Texas, so I haven't been in Johnson County my whole life. But, the research that I've done, there has not been Republicans that have run for local office before. Last election cycle, we had a couple running, but this one is definitely the biggest that Johnson County has ever seen.
If I look at the map here, if I'm looking at the county map and I see where Johnson is, why is it blue? Like, why is it the last blue holdout? I mean, what is your hypothesis there?
I think that a lot of people claim to be just school Democrats. And, I'm a Democrat because my dad and my grandpa was a Democrat. And so they just continue to run as a Democrat. And I think a lot of it, the mindset in Johnson County was could not win unless you were a Democrat. And so everyone continued to run that way. And I'm not sure why, but that's kind of been the issue in Johnson County forever.
It's just interesting to me. And I've been to Johnson County, and it does feel in a weird way kind of isolated. But if you look at these counties around it, they're pretty solidly conservative counties and red counnes. So it's strange that, hey, well, here's this one county that's still saying nope. And I get that. I'm born and raised in Northeast Arkansas, and we were Democrats, until Barack Obama was elected, and then everybody, decided like, oh, we can't do this, and that's what turned Northeast Arkansas red. And I get it. The reasoning before that was, well, my dad's been a Democrat, my grandfather's been a Democrat, and that's how I'm going to vote. Well, people started at some point you got to pay attention to the issues, and I think
absolutely
if you pay attention to the issues, you say that may not be a very good reason to continue to vote the party I'm voting for just because my grandfather did, because politics is very fluid. Go ahead.
Well, and that's a lot of what we hear as well is I'm a Democrat because my family was, but I don't align with all the Democrat principles, and so I think that's issue is, running the party that's most relevant to your values. And that's what I think is changing in Johnson County, that people are realizing that I can run in the party that I most agree with, and I can win.
Yeah.
Instead of just doing the same thing because everyone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, Katie Howard, she is the chair of the Johnson County Republican Committee, and I so appreciate you spending a little time with us this morning, and best of luck to you. I hope we can check in, and it'll be a big celebration after November the 6th.
Yes, for sure. Thank you for having me on.
All righty. Katie Howard, everybody. Folks, we're going to take a break. It's Johnny Cash Friday. We got a lot of news to get to. Hey, coming at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be talking with a candidate for state representative in District 12. Once again, Mr. Jason Dobson. He's running against the Democrat incumbent here in Arkansas, a guy by the name of Chris Ritchie. And so we'll be talking to Jason coming up at 7:33, and more news to get to. The media is still obsessed with the Saudi Arabia story. We mentioned that last hour. But go to conduitnews.com, though, and check out the great stories about constitutional carry being affirmed in an Arkansas court, as well as Issue 1 got thrown off the ballot, and the establishment, they've been seething because of this. We'll talk about all that coming up next.
Your country. What truly matters is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. January 20th, 2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. Everyone is listening to you now. You came by the tens of millions to become part of a historic movement, the likes of which the world has never seen before. At the center of this movement is a crucial conviction that a nation exists to serve its citizens. Americans want great schools for their children, safe neighborhoods for their families, and good jobs for themselves. These are just and reasonable demands of righteous people and a righteous public. But for too many of our citizens, a different reality exists. Mothers and children trapped in poverty in our inner cities, rusted out factories scattered like tombstones across the landscape of our nation, an education system flush with cash, but which leaves our young and beautiful students deprived of all knowledge, and the crime, and the gangs, and the drugs that have stolen too many lives and robbed our country of so much unrealized potential. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. We are one nation, and their pain is our pain. Their dreams are our dreams, and their success will be our success. We share one heart, one home, and one glorious destiny. The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans. For many decades, we've enriched foreign industry at the expense of American industry, subsidized the armies of other countries while allowing for the very sad depletion of our military. We've defended other nations' borders while refusing to defend our own. And spent trillions and trillions of dollars overseas, while America's infrastructure has fallen into disrepair and decay. We've made other countries rich, while the wealth, strength, and confidence of our country has dissipated over the horizon. One by one, the factories shuttered and left our shores, with not even a thought about the millions and millions of American workers that were left behind. The wealth of our middle class has been ripped from their homes and then redistributed all across the world. But that is the past, and now we are looking only to the future. We assembled here today are issuing a new decree to be heard in every city, in every foreign capital, and in every hall of power. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first. Every decision on trade, on taxes, on immigration, on foreign affairs will be made to benefit American workers and American families. We must protect our borders from the ravages of other countries making our products, stealing our companies, and destroying our jobs. Protection will lead to great prosperity and strength. I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down. America will start winning again, winning like never before. We will bring back our jobs. We will bring back our borders. We will bring back our wealth. And we will bring back our dreams. We will build new roads and highways and bridges and airports and tunnels and railways all across our wonderful nation. We will get our people off of welfare and back to work, rebuilding our country with American
All right,
hands.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the program. All right, so a lot of anticipation growing out there for the November 6th elections coming up. We got early voting that's going to start here in the state of Arkansas on Monday. There was a great piece that was written by Joel Pollack that we talked about at the first hour. I would urge you to go read it. The headline over at Breitbart.com is Media's Obsession with Saudi Arabian Story Shows All Other Anti-Trump Narratives Have Collapsed. And see, they know that people are going to start voting. In some places, early voting is already going on in some states. It's a great story, and I would encourage you to read it and check it out because, honestly, I mean, everything that I said, my gut feeling on Monday was that this whole thing was going to shift. The media had a new narrative, a new way to attack the president, and they were going to use this Saudi Arabia, this Saudi Arabian issue to do it, and try to lay it at Trump's feet in some way. And make him now he's instead of a Russian agent, he's now going to be a secret Saudi agent who's really loyal to the crown prince. Like it's just getting to the point where it's ridiculous. I mean, if the headline had been "Man murdered in the Middle East," that's not news. It happens all the time. I mean, the only reason, we have been presented this story, and we have been told that we need to care about it. Not that we shouldn't be, not that we should be okay with people being murdered. I'm not suggesting that, but what about this is different? And certainly not black and white, because you've got Turkey involved, and Turkey is, they are basically, radical Islamists. 18 days away here before we're going to know. We got to, is it going to be a blue wave? Big blue wave. That's what we've been told. That's what's happening. Got these headlines about Republicans are now back down in the polls. You got these headlines saying, well, where people really, where the Republicans really need help, where they're most vulnerable, the Kavanaugh thing didn't help them. Didn't help those. It might help have energized Trump's rallies base, but it didn't help those districts because they believed Christine Blasey Ford. They believed Christine Blasey Ford. On Monday, on the program, we'll be talking with the Remembrance Project's Maria Espinoza about what's going on with this caravan situation. That's right. We have another. What's it going to take for people to be like, where are all these caravans coming from? Who's giving them money? Who's staging all of this? And for the mainstream media to actually report on this, it's just insane. This is the Associated Press. Headline, Migrants, Police, Mass in Town on Guatemala and Mexico border. Okay? So they want to come to the United States. But in Guatemala, members of a 3,000-strong migrant caravan have massed in this Guatemalan border town across the muddy, how do you say that? I feel like if I try to pronounce the name of this river, I'm going to violate FCC regulations. Some river in Mexico, as U.S. President Donald Trump threatens retaliation if they continue towards the United States, which is good. The president said, we're going to cut off all aid to your country if you don't stop these migrants from coming to our border. The first members of the group began arriving on buses and trucks early Thursday, but the bulk of the caravan sloshed into town on foot in a downpour late in the afternoon and into the evening. Hundreds walked to the river's edge, where they sang the national anthems of Honduras and Guatemala. A smaller group walked to the border crossing but was blocked by Guatemalan police. They eventually retreated to await the rest of the caravan. The exhausted travelers, the majority from Honduras, now here's where you do the pain point politics. The exhausted travelers, the majority from Honduras, dispersed to the local migrant shelter and parks where volunteers offered them food. And then it talks about this family and everything else. Okay, so Donald Trump has made it clear to Mexico that he is monitoring its response. Early Thursday, he threatened to close the U.S. border if Mexico let the migrants advance, meaning he's going to send the United States military down there. Later, he retweeted a video of Mexican federal police arriving at the Guatemalan border and wrote, "Thank you, Mexico. We look forward to working with you." 2 busloads of those police were visible on the Mexican side of the bridge. Metal barricades were stored to one side, but not yet deployed. So, we will see what happens. But it's hard to not assume that this isn't some sort of ploy to have a bunch of migrants show up at the Mexico border. Then, of course, Donald Trump doesn't care about migrants. And Donald Trump doesn't care about families, right? Because he separates families at the border who've got to be detained and have committed crimes. 870-275-979. What would happen if you did something illegal in a car and got pulled over for it and your child was in the back? Does the child go to jail with you? Is that how it works? Does the child then go to jail with you, or do they separate the parent from the child in that situation because the parent has done something illegal and has to go to jail for it, or has to be arrested? It's ridiculous. It's just we have this media that sits on some sort of moral. They claim this moral high ground, but it's constantly shifting. It's full of double standards, And you have a lot of sheep that they turn on the news, or they go to their liberal websites or whatever it is, and it's like, what am I supposed to be morally outraged at today? What's the next thing that I'm supposed to hear from the media? And they're supposed to give me a new set of ethics. What's the forced altruism news of the day? What are they trying to make me believe today? We'll be right back with candidate for state representative here in Arkansas, Jason Dobson, Republican, in just a moment.
American labor. We will follow two simple rules: buy American and hire American. We will seek friendship and goodwill with the nations of the world, but we do so with the understanding that it is the right of all nations to put their own interests first. We do not seek to impose our way of life on anyone, but rather to let it shine as an example. We will shine for everyone to follow. We will reinforce old alliances and form new ones and unite the civilized world against radical Islamic terrorism, which we will eradicate completely from the face of the earth. At the bedrock of our politics will be a total allegiance to the United States of America. And through our loyalty to our country, we will rediscover our loyalty to each other. When you open your heart to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice. The Bible tells us how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. We must speak our minds openly, debate our disagreements honestly, but always pursue solidarity. When America is united, America is totally unstoppable. There should be no fear. We are protected, and we will always be protected. We will be protected by the great men and women of our military and law enforcement. And most importantly, we will be protected by God. Finally, we must think big and dream even bigger. In America, we understand that a nation is only living as long as it is striving. We will no longer accept politicians who are all talk and no action, constantly complaining but never doing anything about it. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. Do not allow anyone to tell you that it cannot be done. No challenge can match the heart and fight and spirit of America. We will not fail. Our country will thrive and prosper again. We stand at the birth of a new millennium, ready to unlock the mysteries of space, to free the earth from the miseries of disease, and to harness the energies, industries, and technologies
All right, folks, welcome.
Of tomorrow. A new national pride will stir our...
Welcome back. I'm going to rejoin our online audience here. And, folks, welcome back to the program. We've got Mr. Jason Dobson is with us. Jason's a candidate for state representative in District 12. The current representative there is a Democrat by the name of Chris Ritchie. And so Jason's a Republican. He thinks he can do things better. Jason, welcome back to the show, sir.
Hey, thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
How you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a good morning. Nice and crisp out.
Yeah. How's that campaign going?
It's going great. We are as optimistic as we've been since we started. We've got a real good chance of winning this thing.
Remind us where District 12 is.
It's all of Phillips County, which is the Helena area, and it goes all the way down. We catch the southern half or the southern third of Arkansas County, a small sliver of Desha County, and then a little bit of Lincoln County.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really big district, and it's the population has decreased, so we're going to get even bigger on the next next draw. So.
Yeah, it is a large district. You think the Delta?
Yeah, we cover a lot of ground.
You think the Delta? Do you think they're going to vote Republican?
I think we might not turn these districts red, but we're going to turn out a lot more Republican votes. We're steadily gaining ground over here. People are they're just getting fed up with politics. The Kavanaugh hearings helped out a lot. The Democrats really acted childish during that whole thing. Really showed their true colors, and a lot of people saw it.
That reaction is going on nationwide. It should really worry Democrats. I saw a local affiliate. I think it was in New Jersey, and this NBC guy was going into the grocery store. He started asking these employees, these women who work for this grocery store, and they said, "Oh yeah, we can't wait to support Trump. We can't wait to get out and vote Republican because of what they did to Kavanaugh." I mean, that was what they said. They said, "I can't believe these women." Right? Completely, goes against everything the Democrat media tells us. These women are saying, "I think they treated this man unfairly."
They made it obvious that the Democratic Party in Washington is not interested in helping America. They're just interested in gaining power, and they were willing to ruin that man's life. Ruin that woman's life, Blasey Ford, by the way they handled it. Her life's not going to be the same. They didn't care. They were willing to step on who they needed to step on and crush who they needed to crush to gain power. Mm-hmm. And the people saw that.
Yeah, I think at this point, I know when the Democrats were in power, they said that Republicans were unreasonable, but I think we are really seeing how unreasonable the left is.
A new definition to unreasonable.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. But if we bring this down to locally, you've got an incumbent who's a Democrat that you're challenging here, and he's voted like a Democrat down or up at the Marble Palace.
That's right.
How has he done that? Tell us how he's voted like a Democrat.
Oh, he just taxes, big government. He's even voted on some pro-abortion things, which I think that I just can't imagine. I can't wrap my mind around anybody voting this way. So I have to believe that he was told to vote that way by his party. Second Amendment. I mean, he wrote an anti-gun bill that basically was trying to do away with the Act 746.
Really? When did he do that?
Yeah. Let's see. He wrote that bill. I've got notes here in front of me. January 24th, 2017. He wrote when that bill was.
Really? So
that was just last year.
Oh wow! So they're trying to, I guess, clarify Act 746. Let me tell you something. This is a huge. This should be a. Yesterday might be celebrated as a state holiday someday, because you have a judge, who just said that he referenced Act 746 in his opinion, and he said it's not unlawful to carry a gun concealed or open. Didn't mention anything about a permit. Basically saying that's not a crime in Arkansas, and it's a huge decision, and it's now basically in this opinion. It's part of judicial documents and a judicial opinion on a case that was supposed to be about Fourth Amendment. Illegal search and seizure protections. So it's incredible. And honestly, Jason, and all the patriots of Act 746 people out there who are listening, I mean, I think this is a big deal because if you pull this out, if you defeat Chris Ritchie here, you'll be able to stand, I'm assuming, for Act 746 for the Second Amendment, because I think there's going to be a push, especially now that this court case has come out, to try to take away some of our rights because they just don't trust the people with their rights.
Well, they've already met with our legislators on what was it, Everytown and Moms Demand Action, these anti-gun groups funded by Soros.
Yes.
That want to implement a red flag law, and some of our Republican legislators up there, leaders, said they were open to some kind of red flag law. And the red flag law is the most dangerous thing I've ever heard of in my life. It violates a number of rights, for one. And the other, what was the other? They wanted to raise the age to buy a firearm to 21.
Yes.
And they said in the meeting that they had up there openly that this is just stepping stones to confiscation. This is just a step one to gaining ground to confiscation.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're going to be pushing for anti-gun legislation next term. They definitely will.
We're talking with Jason Dobson. He's a candidate for state representative in District 12. He's challenging a Democrat. This is like he said, down in Phillips County. This is I really think this is a great opportunity to turn a blue district red, and the reason is just because I think there is a lot of enthusiasm right now, and I think we're going to be shocked. I just think nationwide, the media and their message and the Democrats' message, I think it's going to be rejected again. It's going to be unexpected, and then we'll just watch. I guess we'll just watch what the left does. If the American people reject them and their message again, who knows what'll happen?
Well, if we gain the House, or if we remain control in the House and the Senate narrowly, they're going to think that their strategy is okay. They're going to keep on the same path, I believe. It's going to take us just crushing them for them to look in the mirror and say, "Hey, we need to actually come up with a message to tell to the people instead of this divisiveness and this obstruction view that we have."
I don't know.
Because that's all it is.
I don't know if they'll. I don't think they have a self-reflective moment. I just don't see it happening. I don't care. There's some talk. Oh, it may be a blue wave. Well, now there are some people out there saying, no, the media is not telling you the truth. It's going to be a red tsunami, and it's going to defy, just like Trump defied all the odds. This whole idea of, when your party's in power and your president's in the White House, most of the time the other party takes back control of the House. In the off year in between the presidential election, and that is what happened. But you know what?
Right.
Most of the time, Hillary Clinton would have won, and she didn't. So, if that feeling, I don't know, if that sentiment is still out there among the American people, and if they are so, I think the media's reporting, Jason, may have very well just served to wake even more people up. He's a KGB agent. He's also a Nazi.
Yeah.
And I think people are like, really? I've got a better paying job now than I did when Obama was in office. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're right. And Trump's approach it may be crude and crass, but it gets direct. And it tells people, hey, don't listen to those people that are lying to you. They're fake.
Mm-hmm.
It's fake news. And it is kind of funny, but it's true. A lot of the things he says is true, and people listen.
Yeah.
People see it.
Well, his way of communication, love it or hate it, is almost the only thing. I don't think Ronald Reagan was always praised because he was able to communicate directly to the American people. And that's what they said, that he would just talk directly to the American people, and the American people trusted, and they would respond, and they made sense. The media apparatus is the way it is now. They're the gatekeepers, and
that's right.
But Trump found a solution. I mean, he found a way to get around to them. I mean, whether it's Twitter, whether it's the rallies, or whether it's when they ask him a question and he's supposed to answer a certain way and then he doesn't. Oh, and then that's the story, and they can't help but report on it, and his message gets to the American people.
That's right. He talks like a lot of us talk around the kitchen table when we sit around and talk politics. But,
Yeah.
He could slide right in there with us. President Obama, he was an elegant speaker, but he didn't do anything. He didn't say, he just had a bunch of nice words and strung them together, but that's about all he had.
Yeah.
Trump could sit right there at the table with us and drink coffee and talk politics, and we could communicate with him.
Obama told small business owners that they didn't build their business. I mean, it was crazy. Let me talk about. We're talking with Jason Dobson. What do you do, Jason? And what's your business?
I do a lot of things. My background is construction. That's where I made my career. Currently, I have a few small businesses. My main business right now is a lodging business where I cater to out-of-staters that come in to hunt, fish, and enjoy our outdoors and our natural resources here in Arkansas. That's pretty much my main business, but I have a few other side things. When you're living in the Delta and you're not farming, you better find something else to do to make money.
That's great. So what are you doing? You doing what kind of hunting you do down there?
Oh, we do duck hunting, deer hunting, hog hunting. Duck hunting is by far is our primary source of income.
What are the bucks like in Phillips County? Right there next to the Mississippi River.
I'm in the Arkansas County side of the district.
Okay, you are. Okay.
Yeah, just south of Phillips County. We kill some big deer. We kill some. We've killed a 200-inch deer on our farm here. But 150s, 160s every year.
Wow, that's great, man. Muzzle loading season is open, or it's open tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
right.
That's gonna be fun. So you guiding people tomorrow?
No. On the deer hunts, we kind of stick just to family.
Okay. Yeah. So it's the ducks. It's the ducks.
The ducks.
People love
duck hunting has become so commercialized down here. There's a lot of these farmers. They generate more revenue duck hunting than they do farming.
Because they lease those fields, right? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. These out-of-staters, they want to come in here, and our game and fish. Our game and fish is they're kind of putting the damper on that. They're trying to put the kibosh on the out-of-staters a little bit because of the overcrowding on the public land.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's going to affect. I don't know how that's going to affect business up and down the Delta. The hotels, the motels, the lodges, the restaurants, the retail shops. When they limit these out-of-staters to just 30 days, that's going to affect a lot of businesses.
No, you're exactly right. And what's essentially happening. I mean, the game and fish. I mean, there are people that got stories about that, but what they did up in I think over Big Lake. They tore out the duck blinds there and just really upset a lot of people, really hurting the economies in a lot of ways. And essentially, the game and fish comes in and says, "We're not so sure we want you to make money off hunting," when in fact it's the game and fish that's making money off of hunting.
Right.
I mean, they are the business that is making money off of hunting. It's frustrating to me. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, and you talk about how it's going to affect revenue, and when they hear that, they think about tax revenue for the state. But I'm not talking about tax revenue for the state. I'm talking about from one person's pocket to another person's pocket. The lodges, the retail shops, the restaurants. Those people are going to be affected pretty dramatically, I believe, when this goes into effect.
Yeah. Well, Jason Dobson, I appreciate you coming on the program, and I wish you the best of luck in your election on November 6th. Early voting starts Monday, folks, and so if you want to help Jason or know more about him, he's running for State Representative, District 12. Jason, where can they find out more about you?
Go to Facebook, Jason Dobson, or Jason Dobson for State Representative, or give me a call, shoot me an email, jasondobson2018@gmail.com, and I appreciate all the support I can get out there.
Yeah. All right, Jason. Well, best of luck to you, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. We'll be having a victory interview.
All right. I appreciate that. Thanks, Paul.
All righty. Hey, folks, we're going to take a break, and it's Johnny Cash Friday. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
All across our wonderful nation. We will get our people off of welfare and back to work, rebuilding our country with American hands and American labor. We will follow two simple rules: buy American and hire American. We will seek friendship and goodwill with the nations of the world, but we do so with the understanding that it is the right of all nations to put their own interests first. We do not seek to impose our way of life on anyone, but rather to let it shine as an example. We will shine for everyone to follow. We will reinforce old alliances and form new ones and unite the civilized world against radical Islamic terrorism, which we will eradicate completely from the face of the earth. At the bedrock of our politics will be a total allegiance to the United States of America. And through our loyalty to our country, we will rediscover our loyalty to each other. When you open your heart to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice. The Bible tells us how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. We must speak our minds openly, debate our disagreements honestly, but always pursue solidarity. When America is united, America is totally unstoppable. There should be no fear. We are protected, and we will always be protected. We will be protected by the great men and women of our military and law enforcement. And most importantly, we will be protected by God. Finally, we must think big and dream even bigger. In America, we understand that a nation is only living as long as it is striving. We will no longer accept politicians who are all talk and no action, constantly complaining but never doing anything about it. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action.
If you believe the Second Amendment protects your right to defend your home with a firearm, where do you turn if the government confiscates your gun? To the courthouse. The Founding Fathers created your Seventh Amendment right to a civil jury to protect your freedoms. The courthouse is where you fight the overreaching hand of government. And the Brad Hendricks Law Firm is where the fight starts. Call the Brad Hendricks Law Firm at 501-221-0444. The Brad Hendricks Law Firm in Little Rock, standing ready using the Seventh Amendment to protect your Second Amendment rights. Russellville-based firearms manufacturer Omega are making clones of the most notable German firearms in the world. These delayed rotor-lock firearms have been and are currently used by law enforcement and military worldwide. At Omega, they manufacture their guns right here in Arkansas and produce the best reproduction in the marketplace that comes with a complete 5-year warranty. At Omega, they take firearm manufacturing seriously and offer discounts to active and retired law enforcement. Whether you're using Omega firearms to defend the public, defend your family, or for target practice, Omega has your back. For pricing, go to omega-guns.com. That's omega-guns.com. and in its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
God. Finally, we must think big and dream even bigger. In America, we understand that a nation is only living as long as it is striving. We will no longer accept politicians who are all talk and no action, constantly complaining but never doing anything about it. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. Do not allow anyone to tell you that it cannot be done. No challenge can match the heart and fight and spirit of America. We will not fail. Our country will thrive and prosper again. We stand at the birth of a new millennium, ready to unlock the mysteries of space, to free the earth from the miseries of disease, and to harness the energies, industries, and technologies of tomorrow. A new national pride will stir our souls, lift our sights, and heal our divisions. It's time to remember that old wisdom our soldiers will never forget, that whether we are black or brown or white, we all bleed the same red blood of patriots. We all enjoy the same glorious freedoms, and we all salute the same great American flag. And whether a child is born in the urban sprawl of Detroit or the windswept plains of Nebraska, they look up at the same night sky, they fill their heart with the same dreams, and they are infused with the breath of life by the same almighty Creator. So to all Americans in every city, near and far, small and large, from mountain to mountain, from ocean to ocean, hear these words: you will never be ignored again. Your voice, your hopes, and your dreams will define our American destiny. And your courage and goodness and love will forever guide us along the way. Together, we will make America strong again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for being with us. Happy Friday to everybody out there listening to the program. If you're just joining us yesterday, the Arkansas Supreme Court found that Issue 1 was unconstitutional. At the bottom of page 8 of the opinion, the Arkansas Supreme Court writes, "We conclude that Issue 1 does not comply with Article 19, Section 22 of the Arkansas Constitution." And then they go and they go into tell why, how you've got too many issues in one bill or one amendment that are not germane to each other. Also, huge victory for constitutional carry. If you go look at this opinion, it's up at conduitnews.com about how the state basically was arguing about being able to charge somebody and stop them because of a weapon. And a judge said this, quote, under the clear language of 5-73-120, which is Act 746, the possessor of a handgun must have an unlawful intent to employ it as a weapon against another person in order to make that possession a criminal act. And he went on, big victory for constitutional carry in the state of Arkansas. It's now been recognized in a court document.
The news